Welcome to the Caliber Cast, the podcast dedicated to high-caliber conversations in architecture, engineering, and construction. Join Caliber Engineering as we delve into insightful discussions with industry experts, exploring the latest trends, innovations, and challenges shaping the AEC world. Last December, we hosted a distinguished BIPOC leadership panel featuring Jessica Nuncio of Naranjo Civil Constructors, Eugene Howard of the Colorado Department of Local Affairs, Brian Fagerstrom of Amoktulik Studios, Mei-Ling Crab of Stantec, and Jay Ewing. Together, they shared powerful perspectives on the unique experiences and challenges faced by Black, Indigenous, and people of color in AEC, and how those experiences have shaped their careers and leadership styles. In this episode, Caliber's Bert and Callie revisit key moments from the panel, unpack meaningful takeaways, and explore how diverse voices strengthen the future of our industry. This is the fourth installment in our special leadership series spotlighting perspectives that inspire, challenge, and elevate. Let's dive in.
Today, we're plunging into a really important conversation. It's happening right now within the architecture, engineering, and construction, the AEC industry.
Yeah, and our focus, it's all about elevating Black, Indigenous, and people of color leaders in this field, the vital work.
Absolutely. And our source material for this deep dive, it comes straight from a really powerful panel discussion.
We heard from several truly inspiring leaders. They were so generous, really pulled back the curtain on their own journeys.
They shared the challenges, the hurdles they faced, but also the strategies, the things that helped them not just get through, but actually lead and make a real impact.
And our mission here, well, it's to kind of give you the shortcut. It's about finding those actionable takeaways.
Yes. The things you can actually use, whether you're in AEC or, frankly, any field, to help build a more inclusive environment. Okay, let's dive in.
We'll do it.
So, kicking things off, the panelists made one thing incredibly clear right from the start. AEC is fundamentally a relationship game.
It really is. It's not just about your technical chops. It's built on connections, on trust.
And what I found fascinating was how they talked about building those networks. It wasn't passive at all. It was very intentional.
Take Mei-Ling, for instance.
Yeah.
She shared her story of moving to Denver and basically starting from zero. Knew absolutely nobody.
Right. And she learned fast, it sounds like, that it wasn't about just, grabbing hundreds of business cards at events.
Exactly. She really stressed valuing the quality of those relationships, building genuine connections. That was key for her.
And you can see how that paid off. She mentioned specific, strong relationships being the thing that actually unlocked a huge career pivot for her.
Yeah, moving from interior design into workplace strategy, that doesn't just happen.
No. It was because people trusted her, they knew her capabilities, they could vouch for her. That made the whole transition possible.
And she didn't just, stop there. She was really purposeful, you said, about finding mentors and allies.
Yeah, very strategic. She looked for people who reflected her own experience, but she also made a point of seeking out white male allies.
That's interesting. So a mix of support.
Exactly. That kind of cross-cutting support, that advocacy from different corners, was crucial as she moved up, especially into those leadership roles that have traditionally been more male-dominated.
Now, Eugene offered a slightly different take, maybe, but just as powerful, I thought. His advice was basically, keep an open mind about everyone you meet.
Yeah, because you just never know, right? Whose path is going to intersect with yours down the line in some vital way.
His story about those fast tracks meetings really illustrated that.
Oh, totally. He wasn't there thinking, I need to network for a job. He was just being an engaged citizen, interested in his community.
But those people he met casually, transit folks, consultants.
They ended up being critical connections later when he decided, okay, I want to go into urban planning. Suddenly, he knew people.
It perfectly captures his whole philosophy.
Yeah.
Just be open, be curious, be kind. You build this amazing network almost by accident, just by showing up authentically.
So the takeaway for you listening, I think, is pretty clear, especially in fields like AEC where relationships are everything.
It's not about those quick transactional meet and greets. It's about cultivating real trust. Showing up as yourself. It's foundational.
Okay, so moving from those external connections, building relationships out there, the panel also spent a good chunk of time on something internal, something many of us can probably relate to.
Ah, yes, imposter syndrome.
Exactly. It's common, we know that, but they pointed out it often feels, amplified if you're from an underrepresented community.
Which raises that big question.
Yeah.
How do you deal with it?
Yeah.
How do you quiet that voice telling you you're not good enough or you don't belong.
Jessica had this technique. It sounds simple, but actually it's incredibly powerful. When that negative voice starts,
Yeah. What does she do?
she stops and she asks herself two things. Is it actually true? And then, where is this voice even coming from?
Oh, interesting. Like tracing its origin.
Right. Is it really her doubt? Or is it like an echo from the past? A critical parent, maybe, or a bully, or even an old boss who chipped away at her confidence.
By challenging the source, she can kind of reclaim her own perspective.
Exactly. It helps her recenter, own her self-worth, and lean into the resilience she's built up just by navigating challenges throughout her life.
Eugene added this other layer I found fascinating. He suggested imposter syndrome might even be a hidden strength because it often drives you to prepare more thoroughly.
Yeah.
He acknowledged, look, someone else might always have deeper knowledge on one specific thing.
Okay, sure.
But his point was, you are absolutely in that room for a reason. You bring your unique lived experience, your perspective. Nobody else has that exact combination.
So hold on to that value. Don't let comparisons diminish it.
Right. He even said, celebrate the struggles and the wins that got you there in the first place. They're part of your unique contribution.
Then Jay offered this really interesting framework. He connected imposter syndrome to three things: respect, humility, and exploration.
Okay, break that down.
So respect is about knowing your own value, your worthiness. Humility is being open to what others bring, being comfortable receiving their value.
And exploration.
That's about actively learning about other people, their backgrounds, experiences, how they think. He argued that doing that builds your own knowledge and your courage.
Which helps fight the fear that causes bias and maybe self-doubt too.
Exactly. It helps you see where you can add your unique value.
So if we tie all this together, maybe that imposter syndrome, especially for people breaking new ground, maybe it's less about actual inadequacy and more like those growing pains Jessica mentioned.
Could be. Both she and Eugene talked about feeling like they had to work twice as hard sometimes.
Does acknowledging that reality, that systemic piece, actually help you push past the doubt? Or does it just add to the pressure?
That's a good question. It seems like it could do both, right? It highlights the unfairness, but also the incredible strength you build by overcoming it.
Yeah. So for you listening, maybe think about these techniques. Can you pause and question that self-doubt like Jessica does? Can you lean into your unique value like Eugene suggests? Acknowledge your journey.
Definitely food for thought. Another really powerful theme that kept coming up was this idea of breaking cycles.
Yeah, and not just in one way. They talked about generational cycles, historical ones, societal patterns.
And it wasn't just abstract talk. They shared really personal, very impactful examples of what this actually looks like on the ground.
Brian's perspective on working with Native American tribes really stood out. He talked about confronting and actively breaking those historical cycles.
Right. He described the old way, didn't he? That sort of top-down approach.
Yeah, where, an agency or a firm develops the plan internally, then basically presents it like, hey, tribe, look what we did for you.
Instead of with you.
Exactly. The shift he's part of and pushing for is this grassroots model. It starts with listening, like really listening first.
Asking questions, understanding what people actually need and want before you even start designing anything.
He mentioned things like the land back movement as a sign of this bigger shift. People are tired of being told what they need. They want to lead.
Then Jay reflected on that old saying, tough times make strong men, and how that cycle plays out.
He acknowledged the tenacity it builds, sharing his own story, living in a shelter, getting a job at 14, incredible resilience.
But he also pointed out how that survival mode, that constant grind, can sometimes make things harder for the next generation who maybe didn't face those exact same hardships.
Right, because the context is different. So his point was, breaking that cycle on a larger scale, well, it takes a village.
Absolutely. It requires mentorship, sponsorship, people intentionally creating opportunities so the next generation doesn't have to fight those same impossible battles alone.
Jessica's story tied into this beautifully. As a first-generation college student,
she talked about carrying the weight of her family history, relatives working multiple jobs, no vacations.
Yeah, and feeling this intense drive to break that generational curse, as she put it, knowing she wanted more and believing it was actually possible for her.
And her advice was so practical. Actively seek out mentors, yes, but really find sponsors.
That distinction is key, isn't it?
Yeah.
Mentors advise, sponsors advocate.
Exactly. People who can actually open doors for you, get you that seat at the table, even if they don't look like you or come from the same background.
And she also mentioned integrity. Knowing your worth and being willing to walk away if a place doesn't recognize it.
Yeah, and using tools like LinkedIn to build your own strong, authentic personal brand, to attract the right opportunities that value what you bring.
So for you, the listener, maybe reflect, what cycles are you seeing or navigating? Personal ones, professional ones in your workplace?
And how can things like listening, mentorship, sponsorship, or even just your own initiative help to break those patterns?
It's a powerful question. And it leads us right into the next big topic, confronting bias and actively cultivating belonging. Because that's fundamental to breaking those cycles we were just talking about.
Totally connected. Jay's take here was really insightful, I thought. He said, confronting bias isn't just about understanding others, it's also about being willing to open yourself up.
He linked it back to psychology, right? That comfort zone, the fear of the unknown.
Yeah. He argued that being willing to explore differences, background, experience, just how someone thinks differently is the antidote to that fear that fuels bias.
He had that vivid example, didn't he? Being the only black midshipman on a ship in Australia.
Right. Navigating that space where he was so visibly different and the absolute necessity of finding mutual understanding.
Eugene was very direct about it. He basically said, look, everyone has bias. It often comes from a natural place, wanting protection, comfort with the familiar.
The key, he argued, is using that awareness as a tool, both for yourself, examining your own reactions,
and for understanding why others might react the way they do, trying to see where they're coming from.
He shared that relatable example, people assuming things about him, like he must be great at sports.
And using humor and honesty to kind of gently dismantle those stereotypes, always trying to connect on that basic human level.
Mei Ling brought in such an important perspective, too, as a woman of color, highlighting biases around caregiving.
Yeah, the assumption that family automatically limits your career drive.
And those awful stereotypes like Asian women leaders being seen as too aggressive when they're just being assertive, doing their job.
She talked about that balancing act, career and family, and how finding mentors who modeled setting boundaries was so important.
And she really stressed challenging those stereotypes head on, and consciously using any privilege you might have to lift others up.
And Jessica's point was simple but profound. Just having the intention to understand, not judge. That's the starting point for overcoming bias.
If you weave all these individual approaches together, you can see how they contribute to creating environments where diversity is actually protected, where people feel they belong.
You see it in the projects they talked about. Brian's work with different tribes, finding that balance between common ground and unique identities. The Acorn Symbol Project.
Or Eugene's work in Northwest Denver, rebuilding trust in a community that had been historically harmed. How? By listening first, acknowledging the past wrongs.
And Jay's work in Africa, realizing they needed maternity wards, not just the schools planned from afar. That came from deep listening, combating the bias of assumption.
So for you listening, maybe the question is, how can you become more aware of your own potential biases? We all have them.
And how can you actively try to understand others, challenge assumptions when you hear them or think them, and really prioritize listening? How does that help make the spaces you're in more equitable?
Which brings us perfectly to the big picture. How do we actually promote diversity and build truly inclusive firms in AEC? It's one thing to talk about the issues.
But what are the concrete steps? What can companies actually do?
Well, Eugene shared some seriously bold advice from his own job interview.
Oh, yeah. What did he say?
He told the interviewer flat out that the planning department needed to reflect the community it served. He made the case directly for the value diversity brings.
Wow, that takes guts. But he's right. The creativity, the knowledge, the lived experiences, they make the work better.
Then Jessica made this distinction that companies have to get. It's not enough to have some nice diversity statement on your website. You've got to walk the walk.
And she emphasized that difference between mentorship and sponsorship again.
Critically important. Mentorship is teaching, sharing knowledge. Sponsorship is actively opening doors, advocating, getting someone that promotion or that key assignment.
Leaders need to be actively looking for those diverse diamonds, as she put it, and then sponsoring them, pulling them up.
Mei Ling drove this home so clearly. Hiring diverse talent, that's just the starting line. It's table stakes.
It's not enough. Firms have to create, in her words, places of belonging.
Yes. Places where people feel safe, where they can be their authentic selves, where they can actually thrive. She used that Metro Detroit melting pot analogy.
Authentic belonging. That's the key to keeping the talent you worked so hard to attract. Retention.
Jay laid out this really clear three-phase philosophy for firms. First, reduce barriers.
And find those hidden obstacles, right? Things that keep people out without anyone realizing it.
Exactly. He mentioned that minority introduction to engineering program he attended, how it opened a door that might have otherwise been closed. Second phase, reach back.
Be ambassadors. Go into underrepresented communities. Show young people what's possible in this field.
And third, nurture. Once you have diverse talent, you have to mentor them, retain them, advocate for them, ensure they have real equal shots at growth and leadership.
Brian had advice for both ends of the spectrum, too. For young professionals,
Find that sweet spot where your natural skills meet your passion. That's where you'll grow. And don't fear failure. Learn from it.
and for business leaders, your job is to provide the opportunities, expose young talent to different parts of the business so they can find where they click, where their skills shine.
So really, whether you're just starting out, you're already a leader, or maybe you're thinking about AEC as a career.
The question is, how can you play a part? How can you help remove barriers, create belonging, promote diversity and inclusion right where you are?
Wow, we've unpacked some incredibly powerful stuff from these leaders.
Yeah, the real intentionality behind building quality networks, not just collecting contacts.
Those practical ways to question imposter syndrome, to own your worth.
Understanding the huge effort involved in breaking those cycles, historical, generational,
Challenging bias by seeking understanding, by being open.
and that clear call to action for individuals and for firms to build workplaces where people don't just fit in, but truly belong.
What really strikes me is just how generous these panelists were, sharing not just the struggles, but the actual strategies they used.
Absolutely. It wasn't just problem identification. It was, here's how we're moving forward. Here's what works. Practical wisdom, hard won.
Okay, so considering everything we've explored, building those networks, fostering belonging, being an ambassador for change, here's a final thought for you to take away.
What is one small, intentional action you can take this week? Maybe it's reaching back to support someone else.
Or maybe it's stepping forward into a space, challenging an assumption, contributing your own unique value. Just one small thing.
Thanks, Callie and Bert, and thank you for joining us for this episode of the Caliber Cast and for being part of this important conversation. Our gratitude goes to Jessica, Eugene, Brian, Mei Ling, and Jay for sharing their insights. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe so you never miss a high-caliber conversation. Join us next time as we continue exploring the voices, ideas, and innovations shaping the AEC industry. Until then, keep building, keep leading, and keep the conversation going.